All right, welcome in. This is some more news from not so far north. This is well, it feels like one of those back in the days of sitcoms, a very special episode. That's what it feels like. Join us for a very special episode. In that things are getting real. Things are getting real. That might be the overall message. And things are going to get real obvious. So obvious that no one can deny. That is what we're headed toward. That is what next year is going to bring in, according to our Romanized Gregorian calendar that is set up to control, that does not properly follow the seasons, the natural flows of energy, that intentionally disrupts all that. I had no idea I was going to talk about that. That hasn't come up for a while, but we are headed up to the so-called New Year, and I have learned to ignore that because it is not at all. It is not at all the New Year. It is more like mid-year. It is more like mid-year, or towards the end of the year, but not the end of the year. The true New Year, in terms of Earth, comes in the spring. The New Year, in terms of a galactic perspective, happens in August. Not because August is that special, but because it is keyed to the star Sirius. I've talked about that before. None of that really is important right now. I don't know why that's all coming in, but the point is, we've been on a cycle, and we're going through a cycle change. And it's not so much about the new year. Or if it is because of powers that be that have that cycle in place and it suits them. But if you're listening to this, you're not, more and more, you're not keyed to that cycle. You don't like that cycle. You've understood what it does to people, to the masses, to the earth, what it does to stifle energies that should be flowing, energies of life, death, rebirth. Instead, what that calendar has attempted to do is to always stave off the consequences of dark actions, selfish actions, actions taken in the benefit of the few against the many. And that's all going to rapidly deteriorate, and all of that, all the effects of that, because it's karma. Karma is nothing more than cause and effect. And you can get your way around it for just so long. And then it's going to hit, and there will be an effect to the causes. It's just how it goes. And we are coming up to that. And if you feel like your breath has held a lot lately, it's because at some level, if you're sensitive to what's going on, you know that shit's about to hit the fan in a major way. Now, here's the thing that's coming through today, and the thing that must be said now, so that when it happens, those of you who do not think this is what is coming will be able to recover And those of you who already sense this is what is coming, you will be affirmed. And even though it will be awful, you will be able to move through the very dense energy that's coming. And we're already in a lot of denseness, right? It's like the world's falling apart. It's felt like that for a while now, but it's really hitting now, right? But in the midst of that, there's an energy that's triumphant. There's an energy that thinks it's winning. There's an energy marching towards the seat of power in this world. And understand and read between the lines here, because I'm not going to say names. Understand. Marching towards the seat of power. To sit in the seat of power where a decrepit, old, bygone, refusing to see reality and deal with reality, refusing to step into dharma, therefore piling up karma and never actually fixing things, never actually dealing with things, that energy that has been sitting on the throne of the world for basically my entire life, my earthly life, and symbolized by a literal decrepit outgoing leader who is nowhere to be seen in the midst of widespread chaos, in the midst of crazy ass things happening in our skies all over the world, and in overpopulated areas. Again, unless you're living under a rock, this is happening. Nowhere to be seen, and already has lost control, already has no sense, has already abdicated the throne. This is true. But that does not make the power that is marching to sit on the throne good. No. See, when the power that should be sitting on the throne, that should be protecting, that should be acting in interests of all, does not do so, and continues to not do so for a very long time, it grows old and withered, and we reach a point where the emperor has no clothes. And this is when the man of sin can come forward and sit on the throne and take the throne and do whatever it wants with it. And that is what's coming. Well, that's what a certain person kids themselves and thinking is coming, and a lot of people around that person. But what is really going to happen is that control is going to be given over to a beastly system that runs by itself, for itself, and churns everything up for its own pleasure. Human lives doesn't care. Nations doesn't care. Languages doesn't care. Old traditions and ways of being and doing things in the world doesn't care. Doesn't give a flying you know what. That energy is about to be loosed for real. Except, is it? Some of us, and this goes back to the lights in the sky that folks are seeing. And I have not seen that. Well, I did about a year ago. Actually, I did see one about a year ago. It showed itself to me on a very important night. I haven't seen one since. I saw something as a kid, and I've talked about that before. And so I've known for a very long time that oh, things are able to hover in the sky and it doesn't matter how big they are. Reality is not what I thought it was. I've known that since being a teenager. And I had a sense that that was true before I saw. It was like I was allowed to see so that I could know that, yes, that was true. And, I've told people about this, and I've been able to tell certain people in my life think, oh, that person's crazy. Yeah, what are they thinking now? Because things are floating around in the sky in 35 to 50 mile an hour winds and staying put. What does that mean? Just floating there. Just floating there. Okay. Some of those lights are under government control, and some of them are not. That's what I know. And this is a knowing. It's not I don't have insider information. I'm not a whistleblower per se. But this is a knowing that I have. And the other knowing that I have is that those other energies, those other lights, presences, are protective of us. Whereas the governmental ones, barely even governmental ones, government sold over to corporation, that's what it really is. That's fascism, by the way. That's actually fascism. Fascism doesn't mean killing minority groups. It usually leads to that. That's not what it is. Okay, understand that. Fascism is a twining of government and super big business. That's what fascism is. It was very popular in the United States until Hitler went crazy. Very popular. And stopped being called what it was, but stayed around. Clearly. It's still here. It's still in control. It has gained a lot of control in my lifetime. That's what fascism actually is. And those forces rule the world. Let's face it. Well, they think they rule the world. From a certain sense, they do. From a certain sense, they've become entrenched, empowered, grounded into place, into structures that are very hard to change and move. But all that can change very quickly. And in the meantime, those powers are trying to do things and are not being allowed to do things right now. And I spoke on this a video or two back about certain types of weapons, it being desired that these get used before the before the power marching to the throne right now gets to the throne, so that that power can pretend that they had no part in it, whereas that power already had a chance at power, and that power already set this all up. Understand, everything that's happening right now is 2024. Guess when it started? Everything takes 7 years in the world to ground on a global scale. Count back 7 years. Understand, we're in 2024. 2017. Understand. It takes 7 years for things to ground into place in the world. That same power is now marching to the seat of power again. Understand. Listen to your heart. See with your heart. Let your mind access your heart. See with both together, the heart-mind. In stillness. Not rooting for one side or the other of a failed little game. Because that's what it is, the failed little game amongst people who don't actually care for the masses anyway. Don't care for the earth. don't care for Gaia. Don't get confused and don't get tricked. And if you see this and you have been confused or you have been tricked, or maybe you even think, you really think that the side you're rooting for still is the thing, you're going to see. That's what the next year will bring. You are going to see. It will be obvious for everyone. The only ones who will be able to deny it will be, they will literally have to be lying to themselves on the inside to an extent that is the worst sin anyone can commit, if we want to talk about sin, is to lie to oneself to such a degree that one believes the lie to the core of one's being. And this isn't the punishment that comes from that sin it's a punishment of you've made a black hole of your being, of your incarnation, of your current self, such that there's nothing of that self that can go through to another life, a next life. There's very little that can go through. No one is lost. Understand, no one is lost, but there's so little that can come through of that life. The heart must be light as a feather. At the end of life, anything that is not as light as a feather is lost, does not get taken through. And when one clutches so tightly to a lie in one's heart becomes like a dead stone that drags you under the waves. There's nothing that can pull that back out. It is lost. It is lost to time. It needs to be lost to time. It has to be. That's the rule. That's the rule of becoming, not just in one life, but life to life to life. And that is what we do. We live, and we take something through with us, and we live again. From inside of time, that's what it looks like. From outside of time, it looks very different. From outside of time, and especially from circles above this one, it looks very different. And even ones that we might feel a lot of animosity towards in this life, where we're not that far apart. We're negotiating energies, and we're trying to figure things out. The trickiness is that those who are incarnated on this earth are experiencing something incredibly dense. There's a well of darkness on this planet that isn't, in a sense, it's what you would call unnatural. It's not inherent in this planet. It's not inherent in the being of this galaxy or this universe. It's something that this planet has been opened up to, and that has to be dealt with before amazing things that are happening on this planet can fully come in and then can spread out. Because that's what Gaia wants. Gaia wants for the life she's brewing, the light she's brewing on this planet to spread out. That is in the drive of her, in the very bio stuff, okay, on this planet, comes from another place, another time, another world, from which it was spread and came here and grew up here, and it is the oldest power on this planet in terms of consciousness. The only thing older are the literal stones. The literal stones are the only thing older. Okay, inert, what we would think of as inert matter. That's how it is. And the folks I'm talking to, you've been involved in calling in aid. You may not have even known what you were doing, but you've been involved in calling in aid. You've been involved in anchoring in light. Like pillars of light. Why? Like pillars that are like the size of counties, the size of huge metropolises, the size of states, the size of regions, depending on your scope, your ability, your openness to the light. And so a lot has been prepared, and a lot is about to break loose. And it's about to get very real. That's the message. Excuse me. It's about to get very real. Like a burp. Just happens. Oh, there you go. It's very real now. This is a human being. A literal body. Undeniable. That's what's coming in. Don't take sides. At least not the sides you've been tempted to take, the sides you've been cajoled to take. I always think of Tolkien and J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote The Lord of the Rings, and his character Treebeard is one of the purest channels of wisdom in his work. Tolkien spent a lot of time with trees and spoke with trees and knew trees like friends, because they are friends. They have names. They will talk to you if you listen. And his character Treebeard is a sort of a channel of that. And one of the best lines of Treebeard is, "I'm not on anyone's side because no one is altogether on my side." The people, the collective, I start to hate using words like that are unpacked, and because there's so much, my collective this and my collective that. Yeah, maybe, but it's you don't own people, you don't own energies. I don't own people, I don't own energies. At the same time, what I'm kindred with, okay, who I'm talking to, you're on the side of Gaia. You're on the side of the trees. You're on the side of the mushrooms. The oldest, right? The oldest presences on this planet. That's whose side you're on. And that old presence is literally connected to the rocks, the land, the water. That's who I'm talking to. And there's nothing much needed of you right now other than to be still, to wait, to root, be like a tree, root deep. Understand the roots you already have, the rootedness you already have. Understand where those roots are, where they go, what they're in. Understand the roots that you've pulled up, that you're not in that soil anymore. Know yourself. Know yourself. Be your own channel of your energy. Your energy. Who are you? Who are you? Why are you? This is an echo of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Why are you here? What are you supposed to do? What are you here for? You be you. Be so you that you can't be more you. And be so in love with that, with what that is, who that is, that you just want to be that more and more and more. Because I can tell you, if you start doing that, two things are going to happen. you're going to completely fall in love with yourself, and it's going to change your life, and you're going to grow and become the best person you've ever been. And the world is going to cease knowing you. The world that doesn't want you, doesn't want you to be you, doesn't want to make a place for you, doesn't want there to be a place for you. This means some people fall away from you. This means you fall away from some people. This means other people come in, people you weren't expecting to come in. As a host of people who have been important to me run through my mind. This isn't to say you're banishing people from your life or your existence, but that will happen. It's probably already happening. I know a lot of us have already been on this journey. Probably, if you're listening to this, you've been on that journey. You continue to be on that journey. And so this is to encourage you in that. Because what's coming may feel like a slap in the face at times. It may feel like it was all for nothing. And that's what certain powers in the world want you to feel. They will want you to lose heart. They will want you to sink into fear. They will want you to be in worry. Here's the big thing, though. You have to be able to look at it, look at the real world and what's actually happening in it, and not turn away from it. Because that's true love. When you can look and not turn away, that's love. When we look and we turn away, that's not love. It's something else. And sometimes looking and not turning away means you look and you say things that must be said because the person you're looking at is a certain way and they need to understand that they're a certain way. And they've come up against you and you against them, and they need to understand who they're being in your life so that they can potentially be something different and become something better, so that you can continue to become something better that you are trying to be, that they are clashing with you over that, right? And that's all good. But what's coming is the revelation of a power structure in the world that does not want to allow that process to happen, that hates. Okay, you cannot understand. Maybe you can, you probably can, because you're probably feeling this right now. Hates that. The idea of people measuring against each other, of coming into some kind of balance with each other, of actually communicating, of becoming the truest version of themselves, and then relating those versions to each other. There's a power that hates it and is afraid of it because it knows that it can't live in that world. It won't have anything to feed off of in that world. And I'm touching this power right now, and it knows it. It hates. It's afraid. It's afraid of the very touch of love. That's what we war against. And we fight it by loving, by not fearing. And it shrinks from that because that is light, and it is all dark. It is all dark. It can only live in the dark. And when it gets pulled out into the light, it shrivels up and it has to go home because this is not its home. It doesn't belong here. It was let in here, but it doesn't belong here. It's almost hurting because it's here, because it's not supposed to be here. It's not supposed to be here. And it's been allowed to stay because a power structure has grown up on top of it that benefits off of it. And that right there is crumbling right now in the face of a wider consciousness on this planet than has existed ever. So when things start to get heavy, when you start to feel like, I don't want to live in this world, understand you need to keep looking at it and loving it despite that, because that's how you fight. That's how you fight. When you can look at the person and who you see where they're headed, you see where they're going, you see how it's headed off a cliff, and yet you can love them anyway, right? You can see with the eyes of your heart. You can see their never-ending soul. You can see their connection to spirit, to source. And you can see even in their body the being that has wanted to come out and probably hasn't been allowed to, or has only been allowed to go into certain channels and has become something rather demented, rather out of shape. You can see that, you can know it, you can have compassion for it, for what that person has become. That's where we need to be. This is the stance. This is the warrior stance that I deliver to you today. If this all resonates with you, if you think of yourself in some way as a if you see, and all of that will mean something to you if this is also true. If you see yourself as a sort of words lack, this is why light language comes out, because words lack. These are not the words, but they're the words that I have. If you think of yourself as an earth keeper, as a son or daughter of Gaia, a keeper of the lands and the waters, of the trees and the birds and the creatures that live in them, then an invitation will be coming. I will be looking for 3 people to work with at the beginning of this year. And I trust that you will already have been undergoing preparations that maybe you didn't even understand. Certainly I could not have understood or predicted. And there will be a Google form. The questions are fairly simple, but there will be a screening process. This isn't something I'm going to charge for. This isn't about me trying to make money. This isn't me selling a program. This is about changing the fucking world. This is about bringing in the new earth. So that will be coming. And there will be 3 people chosen, if at least that many come forward. And maybe no one will be chosen. I don't know how this will work out. There will be different timelines, no doubt. But I look forward to it. I look forward to meeting whoever this is. And that will be coming. There'll be an announcement. And that's pretty much it for now. So I'm leaving peace and love with you and all the light you can possibly stand. Keep hold of that light in the midst of darkness. Remember, there's no fear in love. There's no fear in love.